My girlfriend announced. He could not afford a real gift, so he got me this handmade junk. I replied, I am sorry you feel that way. At her birthday party, I had invited a special guest, an appraiser from the local museum. When he announced that the handmade junk was actually a priceless lost artifact worth millions. I, Alistair, 38, male, had been with Serafina, 35, for 6 years. Our life in the historic heart of Savannah, Georgia, was a meticulously staged exhibition of her modern tastes. We lived in a stunningly renovated historic townhouse that I owned, a property she had filled with minimalist furniture and abstract art, erasing every trace of its past. I was a freelance historical preservationist, specializing in the restoration of rare books and manuscripts, a quiet, scholarly life that earned me a modest $85,000 a year. Serafina was a top-performing real estate agent for a luxury brokerage, a career that brought in a commission-based income of over $200,000 and placed her at the center of the city's new money elite. Our social life was a calendar of her property launches, dinners at trendy places like the Qley, and weekends with her friends, a circle that saw my passion for dusty old things as a charming but ultimately unprofitable quirk. Don't miss the twist. Subscribe and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. The opportunity that would change my life arrived in a thick, cream-colored envelope with the seal of the Huntington Library in San Marino, California. They had acquired a vast, uncatalogued collection from a reclusive Gilded Age industrialist. They were offering me a 2-year endowed fellowship to lead the entire restoration and cataloging project. It was the scholarly equivalent of being drafted into the major leagues. The offer included a stipend of $140,000, a private cottage on the library's magnificent grounds, and an unlimited research budget. I told Serafina that evening, my voice filled with a reverence I usually reserved for 16th century vellum. I described the collection, the chance to work with priceless artifacts, the beauty of the botanical gardens surrounding the library. She listened with the polite, patient smile she usually gave to one of her less important clients. San Marino? She asked, a delicate wrinkle forming on her nose. It's a sleepy, old money suburb, Alistair. And a library. That's not a career, it's a hobby. She shook her head, her tone final. My entire business is built on the Savannah market. I'm on track to be a partner. You can't expect me to trade that for your little book club. Update 1. I quietly accepted the Huntington Fellowship. Serafina's immediate dismissal of a life's dream was the final, clarifying piece of a long, sad puzzle. My world of substance and history was an inconvenience to her world of surfaces and sales. She continued her campaign of subtle condescension, oblivious to my decision. Over drinks with her friends, she sighed with performative sadness. Alistair has this idea to take a little library job in California, she said. He wants a quieter, simpler life. I'm worried he's not ambitious enough for my world. Her friends, who measured life in square footage and commission checks, offered their sympathies. You need a partner who can keep up with you, Sarah, one of them said. I offered no defense. I had already begun my own logistical preparations. I opened a new set of private bank accounts in California. I spent my evenings researching the logistics of moving my specialized restoration equipment. I also took a small, unassuming volume I had recently acquired from a local estate sale to Dr. Miles Finch, the chief curator of rare books at the Telltales Museum. Tucked inside the binding was a single, illuminated manuscript page. I had a suspicion about what it was, and I needed his expert, confidential opinion. Update 2. The breaking point was her 36th birthday. She was hosting a lavish party at our home, a catered affair designed to impress her wealthiest clients. 2 days before the party, she found me in my workshop, carefully framing the small manuscript page. It was a beautiful, intricate piece of art, vibrant with color and gold leaf. What's that? She asked, her voice laced with a familiar note of condescending amusement. Your birthday present, I said. She peered at it, her expression unchanged. Oh, she said. It's quaint. Later, I overheard her on the phone with a friend. He could not afford a real gift, she said with a dismissive laugh. So he got me this handmade junk. I walked into the room, my face a mask of calm. I am sorry you feel that way, I replied. The night of the party, I played the part of the supportive partner. As she was opening her extravagant gifts, I quietly welcomed my own special guest. Dr. Finch, the curator, arrived, posing as a potential real estate client I had invited to impress her. After she had opened the last designer handbag, she turned to me. "Well, Alistair, where's my gift?" I handed her the small, framed manuscript. She held it up for her friends to see, a small, indulgent smile on her face. "Isn't it sweet?" she asked the crowd. "Alistair made this for me." "Actually," a calm, authoritative voice said from the back of the room. Dr. Finch stepped forward. "That is not handmade junk." He looked at the manuscript with a reverence that silenced the room. "That is a lost page from the Tres Riches Hearers du Duc de Berry, one of the most famous and priceless illuminated manuscripts in the world. It has been missing for over 200 years. He looked at Serafina, then at me. "Based on recent auction records for similar pieces, I would estimate its value to be between $3 and $5 million. The silence in the room was absolute. Every eye turned to Serafina. Her jaw dropped, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. "Serafina," I said, my voice calm and clear. "I am moving to California next week. The fellowship is waiting. And so is my new life." I turned to Dr. Finch. "Thank you for the appraisal, Miles. I'll be donating the piece to the Telfair, of course." I looked at Serafina one last time. "Happy birthday." Then I walked out, leaving her alone in the wreckage of her own shallow world. Update 3. The aftermath was a predictable storm of rage and disbelief. Serafina's texts were a torrent of accusations. I had planned her public humiliation. I had deceived her. I had stolen her $3 million gift. I didn't respond. I remained a calm, quiet eye in the hurricane of her making, focusing on the meticulous process of my departure. I filed for divorce. The movers came on a Tuesday, packing my library, my workshop, and the quiet, scholarly life she had never understood. I drove my vintage Land Rover Defender West, the miles a steady, rhythmic erasure of my old life. The first time I walked onto the grounds of the Huntington Library, the air fragrant with the scent of 1,000 different roses, I felt a sense of profound and welcome peace. My new home, a small, charming cottage nestled among the botanical gardens, was a sanctuary. My new lab was a place of quiet reverence, filled with the ghosts of history waiting to be brought back to life. Update 4. 6 months in San Marino was a period of intense, rewarding work. My team and I began the monumental task of restoring the Huntington's new collection, and our initial findings were stunning. We discovered a previously unknown collection of letters from a major Renaissance figure, a significant historical discovery. The library was thrilled. They extended my 2-year fellowship into a permanent, endowed position as the head of manuscript preservation. They also awarded me a $75,000 bonus for the discovery. One evening, I received an email from an old acquaintance in Savannah. "Alistair," it read, "the story of that birthday party is now a local legend. No one can believe it. Serafina is telling everyone you tricked her, that the manuscript was a fake." I thought of her dismissal of my gift, her condescending phrase, "handmade junk." The words were a perfect distillation of her inability to see value beyond a price tag. I replied politely. "The truth has a way of revealing itself. I hope you are well." Update 5. The discovery of the Renaissance letters was a major international news story. The Los Angeles Times ran a feature on the project, with my name and new title, Head of Manuscript Preservation, prominently displayed. The article included an interview in which I spoke passionately about the importance of preserving our shared cultural heritage. The article was a public validation of the life I had chosen. It circulated widely, and the shockwaves eventually reached Georgia. Serafina's emails began that night. "Head of Preservation. You let me believe it was a temporary research gig," one accused. "You planned this all along to ruin me," said another. Then came the calls from her old friends, their voices now filled with a fawning respect. My own family, who had always supported my quiet passion, were simply proud. The verifiable, public truth had finally silenced her private, manipulative lies. Update 6. She appeared on my doorstep in San Marino a month later. She had flown in unannounced, a desperate pilgrimage to the life she had so carelessly dismissed. She looked smaller, her usual confident energy replaced by a brittle, anxious uncertainty. "Alistair," she began, her voice soft. "I was wrong. About everything." "What were you wrong about, Serafina?" I asked, my voice flat. I was lost, she said, tears welling in her eyes. I was so caught up in that world of money and appearances, I lost sight of what was real. But I've been in therapy. I've changed. I see now what a wonderful, meaningful life you have here. I can be the partner you deserve. I looked at her, and the memory of her face at the birthday party, the moment her carefully constructed world shattered, was as clear as the California sunshine. You didn't just lie to me, Serafina, I said. You were ashamed of me, the work you called handmade junk. I was desperate, she insisted. No, I replied calmly. You were dismissive. There is no foundation to rebuild on. I stepped back inside. Goodbye, Serafina. Update 7, her rejection fueled a final, vindictive act. In our divorce proceedings, she attempted to claim that the manuscript page was a marital asset, arguing that my discovery of it was a direct result of the life and connections she had provided for me. It was a pathetic, transparent legal maneuver. My lawyer was prepared. We presented the detailed provenance of the book I had purchased at the estate sale, proving it was acquired with my own personal funds. We also had a sworn affidavit from Dr. Finch, confirming that my scholarly expertise alone had led to the identification of the page. The judge dismissed her claim in a single hearing, admonishing her for her frivolous and baseless attempt to profit from a national treasure. My update 8, a year passed. My work was my passion, and my life was full of a quiet, intellectual joy. I had been promoted to director of the entire library. I was in a new, healthy relationship with a woman named Dr. Eleanor Vance, the brilliant art historian who had first authenticated the Renaissance letters we had found. Our connection was built on a shared reverence for the past and a deep, mutual respect. One evening, a final email from Serafina arrived. She had lost her real estate license after an ethics investigation related to some of her more aggressive sales tactics. She had moved to a different city and was working a low-level job in marketing. I built my life around a price tag, she wrote. And you showed me what real value is. I am sorry for the pain I caused. I replied with a short, polite message. I wish you peace. I blocked her email address. Final update, several months later, I was the guest of honor at a fundraiser for the Telfair Museum in Savannah. After my speech, a distinguished older gentleman approached me. He was the chairman of the museum's board. He shook my hand warmly. Alistair, he began, a brilliant speech. I've been following your work. A remarkable trajectory. He paused, his expression turning serious. I'll never forget that night at your house. It was the most perfect, poetic justice I have ever witnessed. He shook his head. She called a priceless piece of human history handmade junk. She never understood that some things are valuable not because of what they cost, but because of the story they tell. He smiled. You were the quiet historian who owned a masterpiece. She was the loud real estate agent who couldn't see the value in anything that wasn't for sale. His words brought a quiet, final sense of resolution. I reflected on the lesson of the past 2 years. True value is not something that can be bought or sold. It is something that is discovered, preserved, and cherished. Serafina had spent her life chasing the fleeting, superficial value of the market. I had spent mine in the quiet, patient pursuit of the things that endure. And in that simple, profound truth, I had finally found my peace.